Good morning, sir and madam. Today we will speak about iron by Plato. The iron is the shortest, or nearly the shortest, of all the writings which bear the name of Plato and is not authenticized by any early external testimony. The grace and beauty of this little work supply the only and perhaps a sufficient proof of its genuineness. The plot is simple. The dramatic interest consists entirely in the contrast between the irony of Socrates and the transparent vanity and childlike enthusiasm of the rhapsode Ion. The theme of the dialogue may possibly have been suggested by the passage of Xenophon's Memorabilia, in which the rhapsodists are described by Theodemus as very precise about the exact words of Homer but very idiotic themselves. Ion the rhapsode has just came to Athens. He has been exhibiting in Epidaurus of the festival of Asclepius and is intending to exhibit at the festival of the Panathenea. Socrates admires and envies the rhapsode's art, for he is always well dressed and in good company, in the company of good poets and of Homer, who is the prince of them. In the course of conversation, the admission is elicited from Ion that his skill is restricted to Homer and that he knows nothing of inferior poets such as Hesiod and Archilochus. He brightens up and is wide awake when Homer is being recited, but is apt to go to sleep at the recitations of any other poet. And yet surely he who knows the superior ought to know the inferior also. He who can judge of the good speaker is able to judge of the bad. And poetry is a whole, and he who judges the poet of poetry by rules of art ought to be able to judge of all poetry. This is confirmed by the analogy of sculpture, painting, flute playing, and the other arts. The argument is at last brought home to the mind of Ion, who asks how this contradiction is to be solved. The solution given by Socrates is as follows. The rhapsode is not guided by rules of art and is an inspired person who derives a mysterious power from the poet. And the poet, in like manner, is inspired by the god. The poets and their interpreters may be compared to a chain of magnetic rings suspended from one another and from a magnet. The magnet is the muse, and the ring which immediately follows is the poet himself. From him are suspended other poets. There is also a chain of rhapsodes and actors who also hang from the muses, but are let down at the sight. And the last ring of all is the spectator. The poet is the inspired interpreter of the god, and this is the reason why some poets like Homer are restricted to a single theme, or like Tynnichus are famous for a single poem. And the rhapsode is the inspired interpreter of the poet, and for a similar reason some rhapsodes like Ion are the interpreters of single poems. Ion is delighted at the notion of being inspired and acknowledges that he is beside himself when he is performing. His eyes rain tears and his hair stands on end. Socrates is of opinion that a man must be a mad who behaves in this way at a festival when he is surrounded by his friends and there is nothing to trouble him. Ion is confident that Socrates would never think him mad if he could only hear his embellishments of Homer. Socrates asks whether he can speak well about everything in Homer. Yes, indeed he can. What about things of which he has no knowledge? Ion answers that he can interpret anything in Homer, but rejoins Socrates when Homer speaks of the arts, as for example of chariot driving, or for medicine, or of prophecy, or of navigation. Will he or will the charioteer, or physician, or prophet, or pilot be the better judge? Ion is compelled to admit that every man will judge of his own particular art better than the rhapsode. He still maintains, however, that he understands the art of the general as well as anyone. Then why in the city of Athens, in which men of merit are always being sought after, is he not at once appointed a general? Ion replies that he is a foreigner, and the Athenians and Spartans will not appoint a foreigner to be their general. No, that is not the real reason. There are many examples of the contrary, but Ion has long been playing tricks with the argument. Like Proteus, he transforms himself into a variety of shapes and is at last about to run away in the disguise of a general. Would he rather be regarded as inspired or dishonest? Ion, who has no suspicion of the irony of Socrates, urgently embraces the alternative of inspiration. The Ion, like the other earlier Platonic dialogues, is a mixture of jest and earnest. in which no definite result is obtained, but some Socratic or Platonic truths are allowed dimly to appear. The old quarrel between philosophy and poetry, which in the Republic leads to their final separation, is already working in the mind of Plato, and is embodied by him in the contrast between Socrates and Ion. Yet there, as in the Republic, Socrates shows a sympathy with the poetic nature. Also, the manner in which Ion is affected by his own recitations affords a lively illustration of the power which, in the Republic, Socrates attributes to dramatic performances over the mind of the performer. His allusion to the embellishments of Homer, in which he declares himself to have surpassed Metrodus or Lampsacus and Stesimbrotus of Thesis, seems to show that, like them, he belonged to the allegorical school of interpreters. The circumstance that nothing more is known of him may be adduced in confirmation of the argument that this truly Platonic little work is not a forgery of later times. Thank you very much, subscribe, and see you later.